My name's Eric Thornhill, and I'm one of the owners of Beacon. He's my partner, and this, some of you guys are pretty up to speed on where we are in this process. We've been communicating this for a while. We made a leap last year to move our company from just a really, I think, custom style home builder to look a little bit more production oriented. And in that transition, purchase orders came up, and you know, many of you guys have been involved with purchase orders for a while, but it's new to us. As we analyze this, we looked at different companies, and this product is called Mark Systems. And so we did the cutover in October, last October, and once we did this accounting cutover, I think we started to see some of the effectiveness that the software takes into account, starting from our sales modules that are a person who's sitting in a house can ultimately take a pre-designed plan that's already been built, sell options, many of which we'll talk about today, and you guys may have already get up to speed with that and some of the building of those options process. We take it into the estimating portion of our business. From the estimating portion, it goes into the construction scheduling portion, and then from the construction scheduling, it goes to close and on into warranty. So this program is extremely intelligent, and I got a couple of introductions to make today. But when Andy and I, just really the team, sat down and looked at how do we improve communication with our trades, how do we build more houses better, more clearly to you guys, this was ultimately where we landed. And I will tell you, it's probably one of the most intelligent systems out there after looking at quite a few of them. It's been pretty cumbersome for us. A small company taking on a large PO process and accounting system that this has the capability of doing. You know, when you look at a national home building company, this is just how their business is ran. But for us, they've got more resources, they have more internal resources they can throw this at and implement. And so for us, it's taken us a little bit longer to implement, but this is our last phase of rolling it out. That communicates what the process does for you guys, how you guys interact with that, how our supervisors will interact with you guys, and ultimately how our company better serves you guys, I think. So a quick introduction of Todd Waddle. He's one of the owners of PBR, him and High Buoy, and they are our third party. You guys are going to see a lot of emails, if you already haven't, from Stephen and Sean soliciting business on our behalf for this. We have hired PBR as our company that really is our estimating and purchasing company. So that was one of the steps that we took in doing that. So a lot of the core communication will be from Todd. And so I'm going to go ahead and let Todd visit with you guys a little bit and introduce our speaker. So thank you.
This is the dangerous session because it's right after lunch. So I have to walk around and pinch everybody as we move forward. But I'm Todd Waddle with Professional Builder Resources. I recognize some of you. I'm glad you're here. Appreciate you taking time out of your day and showing the importance this is to you. Obviously, it's very important to Beacon Homes. My company was the one that was, as Andy and Eric and the folks at Beacon were looking at taking that leap, we were kind of behind and pushed them off a cliff. We have a company that provides estimated purchasing services. One of the tools that we use is Mark System software, IHMS as it'll be referred to here today. When we looked at operating softwares that we could offer our clients, Mark System stood out above all the rest. And you're going to see some of the reasons why today. A lot of it is the remote capabilities that's going to provide not only you, but it provides the superintendents out in the field to do the work. And so we assist Beacon Homes in the implementation and rollout of this system and support them as it relates to the software, as it relates to developing process and procedures. And then we've got a staff that performs estimating and purchasing services for them. Beacon Homes is one of our clients in Oklahoma City. We're working with others, and we'll progress with those builders as we move forward. And then we do work for other builders in other markets, from Kansas City to Huntsville, Alabama to Tulsa, Oklahoma. So this is something that we are dedicated to. We enjoy working with Beacon Homes, and I think you guys are going to see the benefit that this is going to bring you through this process. I want to turn the floor over to Bob Kane with Mark Systems. Bob flew in from New Jersey. Bob is with Mark Systems, and so he's going to spend the majority of the time in front of you today just educating you on the Internet Toolkit.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming here today. We're going to start this off just by going over a little PowerPoint presentation on what this actually means to each and every one of you, go over a little bit of terminology, and then we're going to look at the actual product and the website that you can use to use this product. So Mark Systems is a company that's been in business for 33 years. All we do is focus on home builders and trade contractors. That's all we do. That's our main business. We're national. We're moving into North America and South America. And what PBR is doing for Beacon Homes right now is they're managing the purchasing side of this that directly affects each and every one of you. But the system that we're going to talk about here and the process that we're going to talk about in general is much bigger. It all revolves around you. And that is that Beacon Homes has a product, they go to market and they sell houses. And they have to be able to sell like they're a custom home builder. And then they have to be able to deliver in a production environment, production cycle times, in an organized fashion so that they're not wasting your time. So really, what they're doing here today is they're opening up a system here in a portal that's going to communicate information better to you so that you can build as if they were a production builder, feeding you the information you need when you need it. So a little bit about Mark Systems. The product is called IHMS. It has a sales front end that allows the sales team to define all of the options. Who in the room right here has contracted pricing with Beacon Homes? So that just about every home that Beacon Homes builds, you have a piece of the base housework on the home, by a show of hands. Is it everybody in the room? Okay. Who has options? So that when buyers pick options, some of those options are defined by your company, and you make money when buyers pick options. Is anyone profitable when buyers pick options? Or does it not really go either way? Anybody not profitable? Sometimes not? Okay. What trade is that? Trim, okay. We can work on that. The idea of being able to sell like your custom and build like your production is to be able to separate the base house from the options. And to be able to, from your standpoint and Beacon's standpoint, look at the profitability on both as if they're two separate entities. So within this presentation, we're going to talk a little bit about how to do that. We're going to talk about the bidding process, how we can bid things out and predefine them a little bit more ahead of time. Talk about how the system general flow is going to work before we get into any screens that you're actually going to click on. Mark Systems is very involved with NAHB. We've been NAHB members since almost from the beginning. And I'm actually an approved NAHB instructor, so you might see me at IBS shows. We work with trade partners all over the country, so not just with this software product, but with processes and procedures from the business side of things. So today's session is going to focus on eliminating any kind of communication breakdown. We don't want you to be in a situation where you have to bid something and you don't have the correct plans. There are plans out there that Beacon Homes is going to build over and over again. You should bid them one time and let them build them over and over again without having to rebid them. And that goes along with the conversation of how options work. Because the only thing that makes each house custom right now are the options that the buyers put into it. Unless it's a completely new drawing plan, and then it's a separate conversation. But even with that, we need you to know how much work you have in front of you. Okay, that's an important part of your business. And what we're going to show you here is going to help you manage your work crews based on the work in front of you. We don't want you to be in a situation where you're not going to know when you're going to get paid. So this has some tools to help you with that. Managing your cash flow and your work crews is very important. You need to be able to see what work has been released for you, what has been approved, and what has gone through the payment approval queue. Keeping the agreed upon pricing. So is there anybody in here that no longer submits invoices? Is anybody completely off of invoices yet? We're going to talk about how to get there today. That's one of the goals of this, is so that you don't have to submit invoices. You can provide enough pricing up front and that it's on file that you can sign off on that pricing, including options, so that the buyers can go pick that base house. Beacon can sell the houses, the buyers can load it up with options. You can all make money without having to give Beacon Homes invoices for work that you did after the fact. That creates a lot of headaches. All right? When those options are selected, you're going to know what the colors are and what those options actually are, where the buyer wants them located, where the locations, where the anything that came from sales to you will be communicated to you. You won't have to rely on a phone call for everything, and this should eliminate discrepancies with payment because your pricing should be on file. So the goal of everything I'm talking about here really comes down to communication. That's the main goal of today. Increase business revenue, streamline processes for both the builder so they can sell more and bring in more profitable opportunities that you can capitalize on so everybody can make a little bit more money. To do that, there's the system that, this training session is going to focus around a system for that. So we'll go through a little system terminology. We'll talk about what a cost code means. That's the heart of the system. Managing bids so that you're familiar with how the bid process is going to work and how it does work to make that part a little bit more efficient to get your pricing in the system. And then there is there's a blue folder that each of you should have. And in the blue folder, on the left-hand side, there's a copy of these PowerPoint slides. So I'm going to go through what a Schedule A is, and what a work order is, and what a purchase order is. I'm going to go through all of that, and the copy of the slides are in here if you want to make notes on them, okay? But I touched on this just a little bit. Todd touched on it a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the process to the field. Today, we sell homes like we're custom. All right, we do whatever we have to do to sell those homes. Sometimes we sell a lot of options, and they're good for everybody, but sometimes it becomes a little bit more cumbersome because changes happen late. All right, changes happen on top of changes. Things get customized. So what we want to do is we want to come up with a way to be able to come up with a product mix for the majority of the business. Then come up with the options that are available for that product mix. That product mix would be the plans, okay, and then options would be on top of the plans. Of course, we're going to have custom houses, but for the most part, we want to be able to determine a location that those plans are going to be built, and that the options that are available for those plans in a location. Go to market and sell those plans to buyers, and let the buyers pick options to put on top of it, on the house. All right? Then, we want to do something that's called release of work. Release of work is a new concept that's going to be introduced to you. Is there anybody in the room that works for a builder that's currently providing you with purchase orders? A couple? Oh, good, good. We have a good showing in the room. Good. Well, that's what we're talking about with release of work. We want to be able to take what the buyer selected, match it up to the pricing that's on file that you've already supplied, and release work and give it to you in purchase order format so that you can do the work and streamline the payment process. That's what we're talking about here, release the work. And we don't want to release the work all at one shot because buyers change their mind. Parts become discontinued. There's a lot of things that change. We don't want to implement more headaches. We want to release them as needed through the process. That will streamline the nucleus, the most important part of the quality of every Beacon home, each and every one of you, the nucleus of the construction process, you and the construction management team. So that's what we want to focus on. ITK, as you're going to see it in your manual, on the right-hand side, you're going to have a manual that's going to go over everything that we're going to look at here on these screens. It's called ITK Training Manual. ITK stands for Internet Toolkit. So the system that Beacon Homes is using collects information all in one place. And ITK is called the Internet Toolkit because it links into that one place and pulls it out in real time. So there's not like separate systems and nightly updates or anything like that. It's all real time. So what happens in ITK, what happens in the sales world happens right on ITK right away, based on business processes, all right? So here's some of the menu items that you'll look at. By the way, is there anyone in the room that uses an iPad? Quite a few. Good, good. Do you use it for business purposes? Good, good. This screen was formatted to change sizes based on the device you're using. The iPad is just the most common. You could use any device, you know, an iPhone, a tablet, or anything like that. But the screen will change. The menus will be across the top, and what it's going to do is it's going to be able to notify you if there's any type of payment interruption problems. It'll give you a snapshot of this week's work. It'll help you manage your bid documents, view your starts so that everything's grouped together in one place with attachments that pertain to the house. Get a good look at what work is committed to you, what work is currently open, and what work you've currently been approved for payment on. Access to change orders. So when changes happen, you'll be able to have a nice history of those changes. But changes should not be painful, and I know that they are, but they should not be painful. When a buyer makes changes, they can only make changes up until the point that we set the rules for, and then the changes are cut off. It's a custom change after that, if anything. So we're going to work on that process. So changes shouldn't be painful, and you should have a good place to look at them. We want you to have access to an online calendar, paperless retrieval of those working documents that I referred to, and there is something called a Schedule A that we're going to talk about. That's all of your pricing summarized. So you should have access to that and access to those prices whenever you want it by going online and looking at those prices. So let's start. I don't want to jump right into the software. I want to actually go through some terminology so that when I refer to some of these screens, you have an idea of what it's actually doing instead of just me showing you where you point and click. So from a terminology standpoint, you're going to have to tell the system what company and development you're going into in certain areas. So just so you know, a company is a legal entity right now under Beacon Homes. Beacon Homes does a lot of different things, and they have some home building entities. So it's the company under Beacon Homes, the legal entity. Some of you may have multiple legal entities. And just a side note that's not actually in place today, but PBR is a company that works for multiple builders in this market. So eventually, if you do business with those other builders that PBR works with, you might see multiple drop-downs of companies referencing those other builders as a way to be able to get this information from other builders as well. The development is the community that you're entering into. That's where the houses are being constructed. The model is the footprint of the house. So for bidding purposes, when you come across the model, that's the footprint of the house. The elevation is the variation of that model. That is when you put up, when there's a porch out front or a gable roof line change or something along those lines, when they have different elevations that they're selling to make the models look a little bit different from the road. From a bidding standpoint, company development model and elevation are the most important thing that you need, and that's how it's referenced. Once your bids are in there, there's one of two documents that are going to come out of the system that are going to allow you to look at it and perform your work and get paid for it. How many people in the room supply Beacon Homes with material? You don't do the labor, you just supply the material. 3, 4, 5 different companies? Okay. How many people in the room, I guess it would probably be everybody else, who either charges for labor or you buy the material and you've included the labor in a turnkey contract so you get paid in lump sum based on when you do the work. Is that everybody else? Anyone else outside of that realm? Okay. So what happens is, if you are a service provider, you're a trim carpenter, or you're a plumber, you're an electrician, you go out and you buy your materials from wherever you buy it from, and then you give Beacon Homes a bid. And you tell them you want to be paid in 2 draws, 3 draws, whatever the case may be. You want to be paid in a rough and a final, let's just say, for example. So that's pretty much going to generate what's called a work order. Okay, so everybody who fits into that mold, I'm going to mention work orders and purchase orders a lot. You fit into the work order mold, okay? Everybody who raised their hand and said that you provide material to Beacon Homes, you fall into the purchase order mode. Purchase orders are a working document made up of all the parts and pieces that are required for an order delivery. So the purchase orders would be the lumber package, the window package, the trusses. All right? That'll give you all the parts and pieces needed. The caveat to both of those things are you're going to provide your pricing for the base house, then you're going to provide your pricing for options. And the documents are going to come out and show you the net effect of what has to happen with the correct selections that came from sales. That's the whole point of the process, all right? Then there's what's called a VPO. So what we want to do is we want to eliminate you from having to create invoices and send them to the builder. That's what we want to do. So in order to do that, if something goes wrong on the job site, something is broken, vandalized, whatever the case may be, and there's more things that have to be delivered, or more services that have to be invested into the job site, there's going to be a way for you to get paid for that. It's just called a VPO. So you'll talk to your construction superintendents, who will also have an iPad or some kind of field device. They can enter the VPO on the fly. The VPO will be available to you on the screens I'm going to show you. When you're done, it'll be approved the same way the other working documents are approved. And then there's a back charge. If you cause damage to somebody else's work, there might be a back charge involved. But there will be clear communication of all of those things. There will be no surprises. So we talked about this a little bit. It's a tool for the system, just so you know, that where the information is coming from is running the entire business of Beacon Homes, from sales through warranty. And this is just an extension of that to the most important part. But everything revolves around what's called a cost code. A cost code is a 5-digit number. Okay? The first 3 numbers of the cost code represent the category. So that means if you're the plumber in the room, you have your own category. If you're the electrician, you have your own category. If you're trim, you have your own category. Okay? That's the first 3 numbers represents the category. The next 2 numbers represents the payment draw. So if you're delivering material, maybe you get paid in 4 different lumber drops. Okay? That would be draw 1, draw 2, draw 3, draw 4. So you would have the first 3 numbers would represent lumber or framing material, and then you'd have an 01, an 02, an 03, and 04 predefined ahead of time so that you didn't have to send in the bills when the lumber was dropped. These would be predefined ahead of time waiting so that the system would tell you when it needed the lumber. Right? Works the same way for plumbing, electrical, and everything else. That's the cost code. Right now, we have to work on the bidding process because in order to take this leap and get ourselves to the next level and save everybody time, we need to make the action of price changes become a little bit more seamless. Is there anybody in here who has never worked with Excel, doesn't have Excel on any computers in the office? Anyone not have internet access in your office? Okay, that's a great start. So the system is capable of creating bid sheets in Excel, and it can send those bid sheets to you in a format that if you could keep them, and then when you have price changes or you come up with some options that you think can make some money, you can put the prices on those sheets and then send them back over to the builder. So the builder has them all in their system and ready to go, and then the salespeople just pick them and they sell them. So basically the builder's selling them for whatever they sell them for, you've given your price, you're making money when the builder sells them, okay? So that's how the whole bid process works. So when you do that, you can receive an Excel spreadsheet. When you receive the Excel spreadsheet, you can create a folder on your network drive and take the file and put it into the folder, open up the Excel sheet. There's going to be a column on there to put your new prices in. In order to come up with your new prices, you're going to need to have access to the plans. So the internet portal that I'm showing you here is going to have a place for you to pull down all the base house plans. It's going to have a place for you to pull down house-specific plans too. Okay? When you fill out the sheet, the idea here would be that Beacon Homes has, somewhere between 6 and 11 different plans that they sell a lot. And they want to streamline them and sell them more and more and more. The idea would be that we have everything bid out perfectly for all of those plans at the base house level, and then everything bid out perfectly for those plans at the option level, how those options affect those plans, so they can automate that whole process and really get that part of the system really moving. The hierarchy involved in going through that process says, if you are offering a price for your services or for your material where it doesn't matter what model and elevation it is, it doesn't matter what plan it is, then that falls into the realm of the standard model and the standard elevation at the bottom of this triangle, the foundation of the triangle. So if you're offering a price on an appliance or an electrical outlet, that's probably standard. It doesn't matter what plan that's going into, your price is standard for all, right? Now, if you're providing pricing on kitchen countertops, you probably don't care what the elevation is, because the elevation is a roof line or a facade. So your pricing is probably at the model level. You don't care about the elevation. So you'll do model, standard elevation. If your pricing is for siding or windows, you're probably model and elevation specific. Just keep that in mind and keep this as a mental note, because I'm not saying that you're going to get these spreadsheets tomorrow, but at some point in the future, you may be asked to look at these spreadsheets and review your pricing so that this isn't foreign. You can pull this sheet out, look at this triangle, and understand why there's only a couple lines on there and not lines for every single plan, okay? Any questions about that, on how that would be laid out? It's just to save all of you in the builder data entry. They're just kind of shortcuts that we would put in for your pricing. It also makes a big impact when you sign your contract with the builder and you say, here's my pricing. Because if you have pricing that falls under standard, instead of giving you a 22-page contract, your contract might be like 1 page. So it eliminates a lot of confusion. Here's what the spreadsheet looks like if you are a work order vendor that we were talking about. The work order vendor who you're providing them pricing at the lump sum level. You'll see the model and the elevation, and then you'll have the description of the cost code. And there's a column over here in green that says new amount. That's where you'll put your amounts in to bid it out. Then there's options down here at the bottom. The options will give you a full description of what they are. The option bid that you put on here is the incremental price increase, okay? This is the amount of money that you're charging in addition to the base work that you're doing for the options when the buyer chooses them. So this is where you figure out your pricing on that and how that can be profitable for you. All of that information then gets put into the system, and a report that looks like this comes out. It's called the Schedule A report. When you look at the Schedule A report, it will list out the plans across the top, the pricing organized by the payment draw. So in this case, this is a sample plumber, broken out between rough, final, and fixtures. That's how this plumber wanted to get paid. And it was how much money they wanted per model standard. So per model, basically. They don't care about the elevation. And then at the bottom, it gives them the total. So today the plumber might say, I want $7,300 to work on that house. Now they're just breaking it down as to how much they want per draw ahead of time. And then they have the options down here at the bottom. So the options are saying if there's a guest elite suite with a kitchenette, we need to be paid some money on that. This is how much we need. So that's kind of how it's going to affect each and every one of you. You'll get a bid sheet that has the base houses laid out, some options on there, and if there's more options that you think should be selling, maybe you have them selling good with other builders, suggest it. Definitely suggest it. Everybody wants to make money. Here's an example of a work order. So once that information is in the system, what this does mechanically is it allows the builder to know exactly where their costs are. So they run a program and it pops up and it says, this is how much everything costs you, because all of your pricing is in there. Now the builder knows exactly where their costs are. Now they can go to market and set the sales price that they have to sell the house for so that the builder can make money. So all this kind of predetermines the whole process, so we're not backing into it after the fact so the builder can sell more homes. So at the top you have what's called a work order number. The work order number is going to eventually be your invoice number. So your invoice today is generated from QuickBooks or whatever you're using. And what ends up happening today is the superintendent looks at your invoice and double checks that the work is done and puts an approval on it. Then somebody else looks at the invoice and double checks the coding or puts the coding on it. Then somebody else picks that stack of paper up and they have to type in line by line that invoice into a system. And then somebody else has to check that. Then the checks come out. Somebody else has to check the checks against the money that we thought we were going to spend. All this stuff happening today. Meanwhile, you're waiting to get paid. And the builder's doing a lot of work to get all this done. What happens with a work order system is the work orders are generated, and when the work is done, the superintendent's going to be out in the field with their iPad. And they're going to check off that the work was done live and click a button and it's going to update. And then the accounting system, it's just going to be pre-populated, pre-coded, everything's just going to work, and when they cut checks again, you're going to get paid on your checks. And everything will be transparent to you through that whole process on the system here. But the important thing is that the work order number or the purchase order number will be your invoice number. Then you see it's pre-coded. So the work order has the company and the development, the house, the plan, the block and lot, the orientation, whether it's per plan or reverse. Then it has the cost code. So you know you have your 3-digit number, then your extension. We know what draw this is. This amount came off of that Schedule A we all agreed to. No price discrepancies now. If there were any colors, I probably should have given you a better example. There could be colors down here at the bottom telling you what kind of fixtures, if it were a real work order. Alright, so it'll tell you everything that you need to know. Now for those suppliers, those of you who raised your hand that you said that you supply material, you're not going to get a work order. You're going to get a purchase order. You really don't have to fill out the Schedule A unless you start giving turnkey pricing. You're gonna manage more on the side of what's called parts and pieces, material. So you'll have, if you're going to update your information, and you should all be doing this, you'll get a spreadsheet that looks like this. This is a spreadsheet that lists out all the parts for a window order. And then in this column, we put in all of our sales prices for the parts. So this is your sales price to the builder. Then the builder takes this information and they upload it to their system. And then on a plan-by-plan basis, they assemble how many windows go into the plan. And then they have an option for a bay window, which subtracts 2 of the standards and replaces it with a bay window. But they have your pricing on the bay window. So the purchase orders will come out with a takeoff on committed work that comes to you in the form of what's called a purchase order for the material suppliers, okay? And when your pricing changes, you'll go in and you'll open up this spreadsheet and change the sales price column. And then send it back to the builder. The builder imports it in. When they create the new POs, it has the new price on it. So we don't have to wait until your price has changed and then you give an invoice that's too much money and the builder says, why is it too much money? And you're going back and forth. You miss a pay run. No one wants to deal with any of that stuff anymore, okay? So we want to predefine when price changes are going to happen, predefine them ahead of time. They all have effective and expiration dates to go along with them. Now the material